Today's video is sponsored by Coconut Monkey Electronics for custom handmade pickups in a variety of cool colors and materials and custom rewinds. Check out their website and take their perfect pickup quiz. And remember, when you support my sponsors, you support this channel, and I sure appreciate it.
Hey y'all, it's Shitpost Friday.
What's up, fillies and fellers? Brad the Guitarologist here, and it is time for Shitpost Friday. For those of you who don't know, Shitpost Friday is just a way for me to pile in all my guitar-related thoughts at the end of the week and put all the shit in one video so that I can basically give you good stuff for the rest of the week, hopefully. There's a lot to get to this Friday. Starting out, some people sent me some things in response to last Friday's video where I had, you know, the $400 switch and like the $125 grommets. Somebody sent me a couple of other things that are really interesting. I think you'll enjoy looking at. Check this out. This is supposed to be a speaker cable from a Dumble amplifier from the 1970s. I know that there are audiophiles probably in the crowd who, you know, will buy all the oxygen-free, pure 24-karat gold lead audiophile cables. You'll even go so far as to buy like 24-karat gold power cables. If you've read anything about Dumble amplifiers, he never used any high-end parts in any of his stuff. And that's the beauty of guitar amplifiers versus like hi-fi amplifiers. You don't have to have like the top grade stuff to have a really nice sounding amplifier. All you got to do is just you select stuff that you know is consistently good and will offer you a good sound in that particular position of the amplifier, the signal chain. And there's really not much mystery to it, you know, to building a good sounding amplifier. It just, if you start with good components and you start, just like, you know, making any dish in the kitchen, you start with good components and you're probably going to end up with something sounding pretty good unless you just completely botch it up like I tend to do in the kitchen. But 1,500 pounds, this isn't dollars, this is pounds, and I think the pound is still above $1. They might not be for long if the globalists have anything to say about it.
They're just scum, they're so bad.
All it is a speaker cable. I could knock up this exact thing within 10 minutes. From stuff I have laying around. I could probably even find this exact type of cable if I look around. I know for a fact I have some of that cable laying around. Basically what it is, it's 2-lead cable with, and it might be 18 gauge or something like that, with just an outer gray insulator. That's all it is. And then it's got 2 switchcraft ends on it. And you think the guy invoked some kind of genius, mysterious muse in making this fucking cable? No, he just knocked up some cables. Even if it is, even if you could attribute it to this guy, which you can't, but even if you could attribute it to Alexander Dumble or Howard Dumble or whatever he goes by now, still, it's an absolutely stupid and ridiculous price to pay for anything. In fact, I think his amps, I mean, just from what I've heard of stars playing his amps, they're overrated. And I think, honestly, anybody who has done amplifiers long enough could probably sit down and find a combination of things that they could knock up and make sound as good as most Dumble amplifiers if they really tried. Here's another thing somebody sent me, and this one is just on the levels of stupid. I really don't know which one is higher. I guess I would have to go with whoever is charging the most. So I guess it would go for the Dumble speaker cable, but this is a good contender for the dumbest. These are 2 pieces of masking tape from a 1963. It's not even a 50s Strat. It's a 1963. But it's still pre-CBS, I suppose. But holy shit, I would have to think that you could probably go to maybe something that wasn't a Strat. You know, maybe find a Dual Sonic or something and get your masking tape from the Dual Sonic instead of stealing it off the Strat. But apparently these guys, EddieVegas.com, I hate to even mention names like this because I'm not really attacking anybody by doing this. As far as the sellers, it's really more about the buyers. Anyone who would buy this shit is just off of their but a 1963 couple pieces of masking tape for $250. So that is $125 per sliver of masking tape. I wonder how much a whole roll of this masking tape would cost. I might dig around and see if I have any masking tape from 1963, then I'll have like a whole fucking roll of the shit. I mean, vintage masking tape because of what it came off of. And how do you even know that what this guy's telling you is the truth? Even if you believe it's from a 63 Strat, it's already ridiculous. But you have to question, how do you know what he's saying is the truth? And you think you can't bodge up a couple pieces of masking tape? And I thought to myself, surely this is a joke. Surely this is just a way for EddieVegas.com to drive traffic to their site or something, you know, by causing a stir on the internet as a joke and as, you know, a gimmick to get people to their site, which some people, I guess, do. But no, it looks to me like in the description, they're dead serious. They're even saying, we know it's kind of sick of us to do this, but here it is anyway, because we know there's other people out there who are just as sick as us. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Maybe I'm stupid. Maybe I'm just missing the boat on some of this stuff. You know, like the capacitors that I take out of some of these amplifiers, like the AC50, for instance, you know, that I did the other day. You know, the capacitors I took out of that, I don't see those every day, those Hunt's capacitors. So maybe I should slap those up on eBay and like ask $300 for the whole set of capacitors. Maybe somebody out there is stupid enough to want to restore their AC50, you know. But it's just, this is a level of sickness that you just don't see in many other things. You just don't see this. I can't think of a single other hobby out there where people do this. Can you? Can you think of anything else? Like even in antiques, can you think of any other place where people would go so far as to try to track down an original piece of brown masking tape to make something original? And it's still not original because it's not the original masking tape that came on that instrument. The reason people like original stuff is because they like to open it up and say, oh, this was on there from the factory. You know, this is exactly like it was when it left the Fender factory. That's part of the charm of opening up something for the first time. And, you know, the whole thing about, oh, these screws have been untouched. You know, nobody's touched or breathed on this solder at all, you know, ever. Part of the joy of that to somebody who gets something like that is to be the first one in it. It's almost like going to outer space.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
You know, there's an element of what am I going to find in here? If it's obviously not even from that instrument, then... Also, if you're putting this masking tape on, you're transplanting it, and then you're selling it it's all original, is that disingenuous? Even though you went out of your way to buy $250 masking tape, is it disingenuous of you to claim it's all... I just don't get it. I don't get any financial motive to buy either of these items, but I think it's just beyond strange. It's really sick in the head.
What do you think you are, for Christ's sake? Crazy or something?
Also, I saw this article from USA Today. We're talking again about international logging regulations, the CITES treaty, and how they are basically destroying the guitar trade unintentionally, and how they're forcing guitar makers to make sacrifices. I'm a libertarian. I make no bones about it. I just don't like government interference where it doesn't need to exist. I think there are probably ways that companies could band together and buy up some of the land, and they could nurture the land and make sure that they do everything sustainably. It is in their financial best interest to do so. It's very much the same as the whole wildlife debate. If you think about the conservation of wildlife in Africa, on one hand you have the people who are under no circumstances should you ever shoot a bull elephant, or should you ever shoot a lion or a lioness, or should you ever shoot a black rhino, you know. But then you have the people on the other hand who I think have the correct position, and they will say, well, no, because you have the people who come from the United States and from Japan or from any other wealthy country to go on these big game hunts. They actually pour money into a system that incentivizes farmers who would otherwise do other things with their land to actually invite these species onto their land, to breed them and to take care of them, to spend the time and energy guarding them from poachers who are the real threat. So this is the thing. You have to set up a system wherein people have a financial interest in guarding the thing that is precious. If you cannot stamp out the black market in these things, if you cannot stamp out the poachers by making it illegal, then you are going to ensure that these things go extinct. If that is your ultimate goal, to save these species, then you have to understand the profit motive. You have to. And you know, I beseech everybody who's watching this, if you care about endangered species, whether they're flora, fauna, whatever, go do some real research on this stuff. Don't just listen to people who spout off on Facebook. You need to go actually watch some documentaries about these things and learn about how profit motive, when introduced properly into some of these systems, can sustain and bring back these species where they're no longer even listed as endangered. That's happened a couple times actually now in Africa. So look into it. I assure you I'm correct on this. But this is a cool article kind of outlining some of the things that have happened in the regulation of things like rosewood, things that will affect us as people who love and play guitars. Also, if you've been hanging around on YouTube for the past week or so, you will have undoubtedly noticed the flood, the veritable deluge of REVV G3 pedal reviews. And I thought this was interesting. My good friend Phillip, whatever. He actually made a video about it, which I thought was really awesome, because he kind of took the words right out of my mouth. As soon as I saw his thumbnail, I thought, oh man, another one of these, dude. And I clicked on it, and it wasn't him doing a demo of it. It was him actually saying, okay, psych, this isn't really about this. I just wanted to see your reaction and ask you, do you think that it's a good idea for companies to flood the market, flood YouTube with all these pieces of gear to have everybody review it all at once?
Hey guys, unfortunately I'm not going to be reviewing the REVV G3 pedal. At this time I decided I'm just not interested in it. What I am interested in is, what do you guys think of campaigns like this where a company has a lot of YouTube channels review a product at the same time?
I agree. I think it's just overkill. When you see like 100 of them and they're all doing the whole DJENT thing and just going weep. I'll say it. I didn't like DJENT when the first time it came around, when Korn was doing it. I didn't like it then, and I don't like it now. It's just not my thing, man. As far as I'm concerned, all it did was killed old school metal, which I think is the real fucking metal. I'm not going to deny that some of you guys who play that style of music are killer players. You know, the guys from the Andertons videos, both of those dudes, so, they're killer players. What's his name? the Jared guy, fucking whales. But again, just a shitty fucking style. I hate that stuff. No. Those guys know better than to send me one of those, because I would actually open the fucking thing up. Of all these videos that they're making about this REVV G3 pedal, I haven't seen a single fucking one actually take the time to undo 4 screws. Please, if you're going to actually review gear, open the shit up. You may actually be helping somebody rip off the public with a piece of trash. You're doing a disservice to your viewership when you don't show the inside of things. So open it up. At least show the inside of it. You don't even have to know what's going on. Just open it up and say, here's what the inside looks like. I have no idea what I'm looking at, but there it is. This is becoming a very negative shitpost Friday, isn't it? That concludes my bitching session. Now I want to get into some viewer mail. Let's take a look at a couple of things that have been sent to me over the past week. And also, I know I haven't done any videos over this past week, but I've actually got 2 other videos in the works, and neither of them are really done. So this is from Dan Thale. He's located in San Diego, California. So what we have here are 3 pretty faithful reproductions of a vintage Traynor logo. But he sent me a few of these because he's seen me work on Traynors before, and a couple of the ones that I've had did not have proper logos on there. But he's having these made, I believe right here in the US, and he's having them made with the blessing of the current owners of Traynor amplifiers, so that's cool too. I think back in the 70s, people would take those logos off because they wanted to trick the audience into thinking maybe they had a Marshall or something. But Traynors, I think the cat is out of the bag on Traynors. Everybody knows that they're incredible amplifiers that you can throw off a roof, and they're rock solid and have some of the best components you can ask for. And in fact, the last Traynor that I had that I modified on this channel, I ended up selling to Andy Timmons. So Andy Timmons knows good tone. If you want one of these, maybe Pete, send me a private message and I'll give you the guy's contact info. But thanks, Dan. Appreciate that. Also got this in the mail. This is from String Effects Incorporated. And they've come out with this thing that is called a Guitar Joe. This is a device that goes under your strings and mutes them in order to make your guitar sound somewhat like a banjo. That's the idea. And you can adjust the muting, you know, individually for each string. It comes with an instruction manual as well, which is several pages in length, about 18 pages long. So, you know, there's probably more to it than just sticking it on your guitar and going. But I'm going to see how long it might take me to get this on a guitar and get a decent sound out of it. Now, it says in the literature that this thing is really only for trying to emulate a banjo sound on an electric guitar. They say it really doesn't work on an acoustic guitar. I may test that out and see, but they do recommend it for electric. So I'm trying this with my Telecaster, and with some mixed results. I'll show you. Here's about as close as I've been able to get to, I think, its intended sound. And you can really finely tune this thing, and you can move this around. This actually will swivel. Boy, you got a pretty mouth. I guess my main complaint about it would be it's kind of right in the way, like, because you want to play banjo finger style, you know, and it doesn't leave you a whole lot of room by the time you get it to where it sounds best. At least on a Telecaster, it seems to be right smack in the way where I would want to pick. So, like, if I pick back here, it's a little bit too. You don't get really as much of a banjo sound. You don't get that plonky sound that you get if you pick it up here. But the problem is to try to pick up here on the neck. You sort of get, the neck gets in the way, so it makes finger picking very difficult. So you can't get some of these. See, my finger's like just hitting the edge of this board like that. So who is this thing for? I would say this is probably for somebody who wanted to do just the occasional recording track, perhaps like in the background, just to kind of get a banjo flavor where it's not really necessary to have a real banjo. This might also be for the guy who wants to get a sound on one song live, and you don't want to have to buy a completely different instrument. You can buy one of these and attach it to one of your guitars and just kind of set it up beforehand, because it's real delicate. You'll want to set everything up properly, but you get it set up, I mean, it sounds, it's passable. And if you want one of those, I'll put a link down in the description or in the first comment or something like that if you want to go check those out. And now it's time for my second installment of influences. This is the segment I did last time on Rat, the rock band Rat from the 1980s, and this time I'm going to do it on one of my biggest influences. This is Simon and Garfunkel. It's often kind of said and thought that that America didn't really have much of an answer to the Beatles or the British invasion. The closest thing that we had was Simon and Garfunkel. The songwriting throughout Simon and Garfunkel's catalog, from their first album, which is this one, Wednesday Morning 3 a.m., to their final album in 1970 together, is monumental. Some of the starkest, most recognizable stuff ever written, I believe, in the American song canon was written by Paul Simon. In fact, when my latest daughter was born, she came out and they sat her on the little table thing and unplugged her mouth and did all that stuff, and then turned around and handed her to me. I was trying to think of things to hum to her, and I think the first thing I ever hummed to her was Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, Ode to Joy, and then the second thing I hummed was America by Simon and Garfunkel. And that should tell you something about how important these guys are to me, and these guys have been to my musical development. And this album in particular, if I had to be arm twisted into a favorite, this is probably it. And the reason is the arrangements on here are all really stripped down. They didn't get into the folk rock side of things yet. Bob Dylan still, I don't think, had gone electric, and so folk music was still very much in vogue. If you like two-part harmony, just Google search Benedictus by Simon and Garfunkel or Bleecker Street. It's ethereal, angelic. I heard Simon and Garfunkel when I was really young. I've told you guys this story before. In the back seat of my mom's car, my dad's car, driving down the road. Every now and then it would come on the oldies station, and the Simon and Garfunkel song would just be very stark. It would stick out like a sore thumb from everything else really that was on the radio. Now I know, because I've mentioned Simon and Garfunkel, and somebody will inevitably say, hey, go listen to the disturbed version of Sounds of Silence. I hate that version. I really don't like it. And I'll tell you why. The reason I don't care for that version is because the vocals don't do it for me. There's a certain something, I don't know what it is, you can hear it in vocalists. You can hear if a vocal has been overly coaxed out of someone. So they've sat in the studio in front of a microphone for 5 hours to do a 5-minute song, and they've done each line, like 15 times, and then cut all these lines together. But you get the sense with the Simon and Garfunkel stuff that they got into a studio in front of one mic and together sang the fucking song one time, maybe 3 times, to build up to it and get a good take. But there is humanity in it. There are little imperfections and little things you can hear that tell you this is real. But when you listen to some of this later heavily produced stuff, it's just overkill. And then you get into all the vocalists who feel like they have to throw their little brand of twang on there, like, you get that shit, and then you get like the whole and touch the sounds of silence. You're gonna get that shit, and then you're gonna get, hello darkness, my old friend, I come to talk with you again. It's the kind of shit. It's the kind of shit that the dudes from South Park, will latch onto and lampoon you for. That's the kind of stuff, man. My brain hits it, and I can't detach myself from it. It's the collective soul kind of thing. The whole I hear become him, it's like, enunciate your fucking words, man. I know you know how to enunciate. Please do it, Gosh, stop with the stylized badness. Just be yourself, I say this a lot in my videos, but it's so fucking true. It's like, there's a real difference between, hello darkness, my old friend, I've come to talk with you again, because a vision softly creeping. Really simply, just singing the fucking lines. And somebody going, hello darkness, my... it just doesn't work for me. It just doesn't work. But So yeah, I think that's all I wanted to show you. I think that's it. Oh, well, there are a couple things I found at Goodwill the other day. I thought I might show you. Here's one. Found this.
This transmission has been terminated.